I want to talk about what it's been like coming back home after living a year in Australia on my working holiday visa. I think this is a huge part of the experience that I haven't found a lot about online. You know, it's this feeling of like, okay, I'm living this life that is so amazing and I'm doing everything I want to do, but a little bit of it is not real, right? So, you know, you're on a visa that allows you to be in the country for a year and then that ends. You can, you know, extend it or you can leave the country and come back in. And I just thought, you know, I haven't been home in a year. Like, I want to see family, but that causes, it's just not easy. When you're living somewhere so far away from home, it's not easy to just pop over, say hi to everybody, and then go back. Like, it's expensive to come here. It's takes a lot of time flying. So I'm here for 3 months, and while it is great, it still is like, okay, I have these limits, and I don't want to spend the money and time to keep going back and forth, so I'm going to stay here for the holidays, and now I'm in this kind of, like, limbo of, okay, like, what's going on? Like, what am I doing, you know? And I feel like it's still, you know, I am serving a purpose being here, and I don't think I had, you know, I was really anticipating and afraid of this feeling of like I was going to feel like my life was on hold, and I don't feel that now, which is great. But it is a really confusing time because, you know, you go from living such an amazing life to that ending, and then it becomes really serious, you know? It's like, okay, well, how do I go back to Australia? And I'm sitting waiting on my visa, and I think a lot of, you know, at the end of that first year, a lot of what comes after that is waiting. I'm waiting for my visa to be approved. I'm waiting for the holidays to be over and almost like pick back up this life that I started. And I think that can be really hard. And then there's this confusing identity crisis because I did feel like myself in Australia, but it was still, I think, a different version of myself because I was living a different lifestyle. So it's like everything that I did and wore and how I appeared was based on everything I was doing. And right now it's like completely different. So I feel, one, I feel a bit out of place, and two, I feel a little bit of an identity crisis. Like, who am I here? Like, am I still the same person that was in Australia? And how does that translate? And I don't mean to come off as in like a superficial way, but, you know, I came home and I went through all of my clothes that I had boxed up, and I wanted maybe like a fifth of the clothes that I had left there. Like, these clothes that I thought like, oh yeah, I'll 100% want to wear these when I come back. And of course, I'm a different person, so I don't really want most of those clothes. And I'm like, why was I holding on to this stuff? But there were certain things that I was like, wow, like I can't wait to get back and just like have my things and feel like myself and like wear my old clothes. And even with that stuff that I picked out that I'd be wearing these next 3 months, I'm just like, is that even me? Like, I don't even know. You know, I went to the nail salon and I got this blue color, and I was like, I don't even know what color I want my nails. Like, what does this say about me? And it's like this whole weird, confusing thing. And I'm really curious to see if other people have been through that aspect of it as well. And then I had this whole hair extensions crisis. I have a consultation to get hair extensions in an hour because I'm like, I don't even know, who am I right now? What's my identity? I don't feel like what I look like. I think I felt like this when I was like hiking in Australia. I don't know, I feel like I'm trying to figure out, okay, who am I at my core, plus who I became in Australia, and what is me. It's kind of fun. I feel like this is gonna be fun. So I just had my extensions consultation and therapy back to back, and I realized I don't need extensions, I actually just need therapy. I think after the hair extension thing, I knew, I was like, okay, it's not my hair, and it's not my appearance, it's something else. And I think it's because when you're living in Australia on a working visa, you're around so many people who are doing the same thing. And so you don't feel any judgment. You don't feel out of place, really. I mean, in some ways. And just like, you're just living like in the moment of what's going on. And so it's like, you're not thinking of all this existential stuff. I just felt like completely free to do what I wanted, to be there and experience it. And like everybody around me was understanding what I was doing and was completely supportive of it. Then coming back here, all the people at home, of course, don't actually know the ins and outs of what you were doing. And so there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of curiosity, and I think there's a lot of things that I'm afraid maybe to be judged for that, people aren't necessarily even judging me for, but that sort of stuff comes out and it does make me feel out of place. And I'm trying to push past that feeling, but it also causes confusion because I know what I want for my life, and what I do for money is not at the top of that list. But of course, coming back, because I was a different person when I left, and that was like my whole life, of course, people are asking me, well, what do you want to do for a career? Do you still have these ambitions? And I'm like, no, like nothing that I'm ambitious about has to do with career. And I'm not ashamed to say, yeah, I just want to work at a cafe and, make the money to cover my bills, and then do my passions or, go hiking, be outside, work on my hobbies. But it still makes me question, wait, are there other things I should be thinking about? Is that part of my life missing? And for a second there, I felt like, being back here, I was like, wait, like I should figure out what I'm going to do for career because, what am I doing? So it's just really confusing. And I know like deep down that when I get back to Australia, I won't have that feeling again. But being here for 3 months, that is a long time. And I think that it's like I'm trying to protect myself and what I truly want and what I'm thinking with like outside perspective. All those perspectives come from a good place. It's just different. I've just been living somewhere different. And then there's this feeling of fear of always living in between homes, because I had seen somebody comment about this on my YouTube like midway through my visa, and it got me thinking a lot because I'll never feel at home where I grew up, and I'll never feel completely at home in the place that I choose to be my home because it's not where I'm from. So, there's always going to be that, I think, that feeling of disconnect in both places. And I think that is a really hard feeling to have and thing to realize, but I think I've gotten over it a little bit because I've met a lot of people who are in that same experience as me, and that's just a specific lifestyle. I'm like, why do I want this? Like, this is really hard. But then after seeing so many people doing the same thing as me, I'm like, this is okay. This is just a way of life, and every way of life has something hard. If I stayed at home, I would be feeling again like that disconnect. But it is disappointing that that's within me sometimes. But it's also led me to have really good experiences. So I'm just trying to stay grounded in that. But that is something that comes with doing this, that comes with, moving to Australia on a working holiday visa. And all the people that I meet and the friends that I make and relationships that I have, they'll never have the same amount of history or time as other people. And I know that the time someone isn't everything that matters. But it is weird because there are people that I've been friends with since I was 3 years old who truly, truly know me, like really know me, that I call when I'm going through something and they point things out about myself that I forgot about. And while those connections won't go away and they won't be replaced, they still are further away from me. And, I'm gonna keep aging and getting into another lifestyle. And when I have this new home, which I think will be in Australia, I know that I'll make these new connections, but it is weird to think that maybe those people won't know like the core of who I am. And I know that I can stay connected with people from home, but it really isn't the same when you're away. I think that that's something that's been really hard. And now I'm in an even weirder place because I had these friends from home who I was so far away from, and now I am home and I'm away from my friends in Australia, but those friends in the US also live in different states. I feel, I think, even more in a bubble and away from everybody. And I wouldn't say I'm feeling lonely because I'm around family and friends here. But it is like even more disconnection, I think, to like who I am. And I'm trying not to think of it as such like a big serious thing because I know that I'm just visiting family right now and it's temporary, but because I'm here for a bit and I'm waiting to start my life, like get started, like get an apartment and a car and a cat and a community. I know that I want that, and now it's just a matter of building that up and waiting for the start of that. And okay, on a lighter note, I want to talk about what it's been like being in the US culturally. Things that I've noticed with a fresh perspective after being away for 13 months, because the longest I've ever been away from home is 6 months. So this has actually been, I think, kind of exciting. Not all of this has to be bad, but I think the nature here is just so beautiful. I think if you grow up somewhere, it's like I have this connection to the nature here that I don't have to any other place. Like just being outside, it gives me a certain feeling that even in Australia and all the beautiful places I'd seen, I don't get that feeling. So that's been really fun and exciting. And my parents always told me that I would get that feeling when I'm older. And I never understood that or could picture that, but now I'm finally experiencing that, and that's really cool. While I don't want to necessarily live here, I think it's an exciting part of coming back. Okay, then there's the customer service, because I went to get a new phone plan and there was a bunch of angry customers coming in and complaining, and the worker was having such a hard time. And while, yes, 100% I've had those days in Australia, like customers in Australia are not perfect, I was making a lot more money in Australia. So it made dealing with those customers worth it, because I knew I was getting a good paycheck and covering my rent at the end of the day. And I just was sitting there like, yeah, I don't think I could ever work here again after experiencing wages here and cost of living here and then what I experienced in Australia. I'm not trying to just shit on everything. But I think it's like these little things of, because in the back of my head, I'm thinking, is there any part of me that's going to come home and want to stay here? And it's already been a week and I'm like ready to go back. And then there's health insurance. Even with my minimal salary I'm making right now, I'm paying $330 a month on health insurance. So I'm going to make every doctor's appointment that I possibly can to take advantage of that. And again, it's just another rude awakening of, okay, it's not cheap just being here. So there's that. Okay, but the shopping. I have missed going into a Sephora or Ulta or Target or Nordstrom Rack, and like American capitalism just like gets under my skin. Like I know people in Australia who have come to America and said that the shopping here is amazing, and there really is something about it that I think brainwashes me, but that's been amazing. I think it's kind of feeding my like who am I moment, because I'm like, well, I obviously have to buy new clothes for this new person that I am, but I'm super excited because I think in Australia it was actually really hard to find clothes that really fit my style, because I do think like the brands in Australia are limited unless you're shopping at like boutiques and stuff, but it's all this, Australia vibes, and that's not necessarily my sense of fashion. And I haven't had a room or a house that I've been in to actually buy things and have a place for it and not have to put it in a suitcase and like transport it around every month. I'm getting some sense of like settling down right now, and I think being here has really allowed me to reset with my health, with my mental state, with my things, with, just having a clear head. When you're doing a working holiday visa, you're experiencing life at a level that is not normal. So in your regular life, maybe before you do a visa, you have an exciting, adventurous moment, maybe once a month, maybe a couple times a year if you go on a vacation. And on this visa, it's like I was experiencing something new and crazy and exciting, sometimes twice a week. And then you're meeting so many people, you're saying goodbye to so many people. Like, you should not be having, I think, that many emotional goodbyes. And everything is heightened. Like, your connections to people is heightened because you're, like, living in this paradise. And then also the bad emotions are really strong because you don't have your support system that you normally have. So it's a really, really emotional experience. And it's something that lasts well after the year is over. The experience of that working holiday is now ongoing because it's changed who I am and what I'm experiencing, and it's like completely uprooted everything. Being back here, like, I love seeing everybody, but I do feel different, and I feel like I'm reintroducing myself to people now, and that's a really weird feeling because it can make me feel a little bit out of place. I don't even know, like, do I still enjoy doing the same things or talking about the same things that I did before? And I feel maybe like overly conscious about this new person that I am with old friends. And again, this is all like things that maybe I'm afraid of being judged for or like overthinking, but it is super weird to come back and be a completely different person in an old life. Yeah, I'm trying to work through these feelings, and I'm ready to work through them and get to where I want to be. This whole year, the one thing that's gotten me through all of this is knowing people who are experiencing the same exact thing, whether it's Australia working holiday or living somewhere else. Like, it's such a specific experience. And I'm really curious to see if these are just like normal emotions people are going through. And I think it's super helpful. So like, if anyone is experiencing this now or has, I really want to hear from you. And this is an ongoing experience. So this is kind of my first impressions with things. Like, I've had breakdowns where I've been sobbing and I've been so stressed and I've been so confused, and I've gone through so many different places of I want to live in this city and that, and I feel like I don't actually know my true self or my gut instinct. And so I think I'm trying to work through those feelings, and I think that'll get better over time. But yeah, like, I think hearing from people really helps. So I'm sure I will be back with another breakdown soon.